Welcome back to the Bionicle Inspiration Series. Every 10th episode, we spotlight MOCs that you have made specifically. This is a fan-submitted MOCs episode. We take a look at Bionicle creations from across the community to give you a little bit of inspiration, and we're going to do exactly that today. So we're going to begin. We're going to talk about 9 different MOCs today, all submitted by you. Let's dive in and take a look. Quick warning, you might hear some rain in the background because it's raining right now, and it's a little bit louder than I want it to be, but it is what it is. And, you know, just pay no mind to that. Just pretend that we're recording live from Camino. You know, I've successfully made contact with the Prime Minister of Camino. They're using a bounty hunter named Jango. Anyway, all right, let's begin. The first MOC we have today is by JoxBricks, and this is Makuta Slayer Zarya, Tower of Iron. Quite like the color scheme on this one. There's something about brown and gunmetal that kind of, I don't know, makes them look quite ancient. It gives them a kind of seasoned or veteran warrior kind of vibe, and I really like that. But I guess at the same time, you could argue that this is perfect for a Tower of Iron, since that's kind of the two colors that you see for iron, I guess. Whether that's like iron or actual iron itself. So yeah, very fitting and very appropriate, but just a nice color combination too, regardless. I love the head design here. I wrote head design in my notes, which I do like that head design because it's a custom mask, but I meant to say hand design. So both of those are good, but let's specifically talk about the hand design. I like how the armor kind of flows into the fingers just a little bit there, like a little bit of protective armoring around the hand, the very tip of the hand. I like that. But I also like seeing those macaroni pieces being used there for the fingers. Great idea for a finger design. This kind of reminds me of like a modern take on the classic Axon hand design that you see in the set Axon. So that's a bit of fun. It's nice to see a different, slightly different take on that. Now, these macaroni pieces are fantastic. They're popping up a lot in modern MOCs, which is brilliant. I love seeing them. And we're actually getting some bigger ones in a lot more colors, and just they're being a little bit more common in some of the new LEGO Dreams sets as well. So even more reason to get excited for some of these macaroni pieces. There's certainly a bit of a trend at the moment, I guess, in the construction community, and it's I'm here for it. It's very, very good. So yeah, fantastic hand design and fantastic head design. So I've been showing you some images of this MOC, digitally rendered and all that, but this has also been built in person, which is great. I feel like that's kind of a first. Most of the time when I cover MOCs that have been built online in that sense, they aren't really brought into the physical world, so really nice to see that. There is a difference with the mask. I also like this head design. I think this mask actually fits the character a little bit better. There's something about the angled face here that I think just works nicely with the rest of the character. But something else that's super cool to see is these kind of blue flames in some of these images here. It's a really, really cool addition. And I think that's a smart idea too, is leaving out some holes throughout your MOC so that you could put accessories in them later. And so yeah, maybe that way you could display the character with or without them. Either way, it's going to look really cool. But again, that pop of trans blue, looks lovely up against these colors. So a lot going for this MOC. Looks super, super cool. Up next, we've got a MOC by Nimbus, and this is Terex version 1.5. Cool to see the Boba Fett cape being used as a nice little waist cape there. That's a nice addition. But also a lot of fantastic shaping all throughout this creation. This whole torso, I think, really shines with some of the shaping. I love the way that those Technique panel pieces have just been beautifully crafted into the rest of the torso here. And shoulder pads always look fantastic, so very cool to see. But all the other elements kind of wrapping around that there, it just work together in such gorgeous ways. All those pieces just perfectly flow off of one another. There's no gaps, there's no unsightly weird placement or anything. They just flow nicely, and that's the case with like the arms and a bunch of other parts on this MOC here. So yeah, some brilliant shaping all throughout here. This shot's also a bit of fun seeing these trans-orange nest pieces that came from the Fantoka Makuta. They have a name, but it's escaping me right now. Still, those pieces are cool, and the way they kind of wrap around the fingers there, it looks like some sort of interesting energy power attack or something. So yeah, it's cool. It's always nice to see translucent pieces being used to illustrate powers on a LEGO creation, and this is a nice example of that. So great shaping and great fun all throughout this MOC. I'm having a good time looking at it. Up next, we got a MOC by Rowlet Gaming, and this is Toakopaka. So we've got a very simple revamp of Kopaka here, and I like that. I love seeing all of these G2 CCBS parts here mimicking the look of the original Toakopaka. I kind of get that sense looking at it here. There's kind of parallels there with some of the more slimmed down, non-armored parts of the creation here. I don't know if that was deliberate or not. I don't believe it said that in the email unless I'm misreading it there. But I think that's a really fun challenge or idea, is using exclusively CCBS pieces to try to mimic the style of a character from like early Bionicle or something like that, from G1, I guess. Yeah, great idea. Great to also see the Toakopaka Nuva shield up against the smooth textures of the CCBS pieces. Because, yeah, I guess you could have used the OG shield, but I don't know. I think this pairs better with the textures of your Hero Factory shells and G2 pieces, whatever you want to call them. They're pieces of many names. But yeah, I think that was a nice inclusion there, and it kind of just makes me think of all the other, modern Lego dish pieces that exist, because they do have a pretty similar texture to CCBS armor. There's no reason you can't use those sorts of pieces yourself if you're building a MOC that has more of those sort of smoother textures to them. It could be a good choice. So all in all, yeah, this is a relatively simple build, but I think it's just shining in some really fun ways and some unique ways. It's just a joyous concept to recreate other styles of Bionicle with newer pieces. Always a pleasure to see. On to the next MOC now. This is called Silicon Safeguard, and this is by Duncan Lindebeau. Yeah, look at this big chunky gun. I love it. It's great to see that it's been built with just a bucket load of system pieces, and because of that, it has this very blocky look to it. And I think that's smart, because it makes it look a little bit more alien to the rest of the character, and it gives off this sense that the guy has modified himself so that he has a gun arm, and it's, obviously using foreign body elements to put it on his foreign body, I guess. And so while we're talking about system pieces, I think it's great to also see all these other curved system parts, like wedges and different things, working perfectly with some of the other CCBS armor shells. There's a bunch on the leg and all that. But yeah, I think that's amazing, because we see a good example of blocky system pieces on his blaster gun arm thing. And that contrasts so nicely with these smoother curved wedge pieces and other Hero Factory shells and things. I think it's so easy to overlook that those wedges in white are actually LEGO system pieces and not CCBS armor shells, because they look so similar to each other. And I just completely thought they were the same thing until I was actually actively taking a closer look at the MOC. So yeah, that's cool. I think this is a brilliant and probably one of the perfect examples of the power of having consistent textures on a LEGO creation, or the power of contrasting textures on a LEGO creation. That's really, really cool. I also quite enjoy the big old system pillar piece in the background here. I think there's a really fun way of displaying the build, and it's quite an imposing big stand. Often you just see a little sort of small thing that they stand on, but I like the height of this as well. I originally thought that was needed so that the MOC could pose. It was kind of like leaning up against that larger pillar in the background, but we have a few shots here of them posing in some action poses, and these look great. It's amazing to see how posable this character is, and it looks like they're standing up on their own. There might be some editing going on, so maybe that's not the case, but still, it's always a pleasure to see a MOC that's really well built and it can pose well. Sometimes those don't go hand in hand there, so really, really nice to see that. This next one's by Kitchen Table Studios, and this is Tarkin, Guardian of the Mountain, or Guardian of the Home Depot box, as it seems here. But yeah, this is cool. The shield on this MOC is a bit of fun. I enjoy the way that there is a less kind of coherent shape to this. It's more of a kind of a rhombus, I suppose is the word. I like that. And I also like the fact that the little notch of it here is blue instead of just it being purely white. I think that little slight bit of extra color there does a lot here and just looks cool. It's also nice to see a very system-heavy LEGO creation. I get the sense that this is using a lot of pieces from recent Ninjago mech sets, I think. So it's nice to know that if you did buy one of those sets and mixed it in with a few other CCBS pieces, you'd be able to produce something that still looks really nice. The head design's also quite nice here. I like the way that it just has that mono eye, and there's two of those Borok teeth as horns. That looks quite good. And yeah, all in all, this is just a well-built, fun, a little bit more system-heavy MOC, but with little splatterings of CCBS here and there, and nothing wrong with that. Construction MOC is whatever you want it to be these days, I guess, so love it. Now we've got Bobos12345, and he's built Elenchos, Great Being of Control and Spirox. So we've got ourselves a nice big and bold presence to this character, which I think is very fitting of a great being or godlike character. The choice of using a little bit of gold is also very appropriate for a godlike character. And I guess it's just because gold has that kind of regal, grand quality to it. And that's why it's good, Nice to also see the Makuta mask here. Having those larger horn additions, I think is also a bit of fun. And, that mask itself is actually quite tiny. So adding in those additions to the side there, I think is wise, because now it actually feels appropriate size-wise for the rest of this build. Otherwise, it would just look a little too tiny, It's good. I also also quite like the fact that the legs are a bit more bulky and big, using a lot of different CCBS parts. We can specifically see a CCBS torso piece being used on the knees here. And, torso's got a lot of different connection points on it, so it allows you to really branch off and do all sorts of crazy things. And, I think that's always the best thing to do, is build a lot of connection points on so that you have more to work with. So using that piece there is smart. Nice choice. But all in all, really good, imposing, great being character. They look awesome. Crypto number 7 has built Toaliwa, the Survivor of Jungle. Nice to see some of these tank tread pieces on the torso looking like some kind of Rambo-style ammo belt. Now, this has been made with a mix of these tread pieces here. They come on the Hailfire droid in brown, and those are the smaller ones. And then they've been mixed in here with these black ones, which are slightly larger, that come on a set like the TIE Crawler, but they appear in a variety of different sets as well. But seeing them mixed up there and put on the torso, that's cool. It gives off some really nice post-apocalyptic vibes for this build, and it's very appropriate since that's the sort of concept, I guess, for this take on Liwa. I also enjoyed these weapons here. This big old gun is great. I mean, anytime you can have any kind of big blaster, it always works. It always looks good. I also enjoy this brick-built Liwa axe. Making it out of other pieces so that it's a little bit bigger and bulkier is smart, because I think if you were to just use the original Liwa axe, you might struggle. It might look a little bit too small and not quite work with the scale of the build, since Liwa Mata was a little bit smaller than this sort of size of build here. So building it out of, Lego system pieces and some other things, good play for the scale of it, and also it just looks cool. And hey, maybe you're someone who doesn't actually have Liwa's axe. Nothing wrong with that. You can build it with other pieces. So, good choice. Nice mark and a nice take on Liwa. To Lego Photography has built a very nice revamp of Mystica Gali and Tahu. These are two awesome revamps, and honestly, I think they're one of the best ways that you could approach a revamp. I feel that these encapsulate everything that the original set was aiming for, but maybe didn't fully manage to achieve or showcase in the actual set. So, for example, if we look at Gully, the original set has these really broad shoulders, but I don't know, it still has this angled mask and the wings on the mask and engines and all that. There's a kind of fighter jet aesthetic to some of these pieces, but I think, the broader shoulders and stuff that I was talking about before doesn't really reflect that to a degree. So there's almost sort of two contrasting things going on here. But then when we look at the final mock, I think that there's much more of an agile, angled overall design that, matches the look of the engines, the head wings, and the mask that we see on the original set. So yeah, suddenly everything's working together, and there's not really anything that's not blending together, you know what I mean? There's a more coherent, consistent, air-based, agile warrior look to Gully here, and I like that. Focusing on the aesthetic of those pieces was a smart choice. It really does bring out all the best qualities of the original set and makes it look way cooler in this revamp. So yeah, great idea. It's a pretty similar story here for Tahu. I really like the way that they've accented the shoulder pads. They look great. And I think bulking out this area was good because Tahu's mask, it is a big, bulky mask, and you may, depending on how you revamp this specific look of Tahu, might struggle a bit if you build the torso or the rest of the body in a more sort of slimmed down way. The head might look a little bit too big. So really buffing out the whole of the torso, I suppose, was wise. The mask just fits better within the scale of things. So good call, good call. Both of the characters' weapons are really fun as well. They almost have a bit of a paintball gun aesthetic to them, but I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. And that's not to say they're bad or they look out of place or anything. No, I think they look fantastic. Very different way of revamping those blasters, but looks super cool. And finally, the AllSeeingEye has built Adrian Iron Curtain. So yeah, as I mentioned in the title of this video, I love how there's one little detail here that I think actually does a lot to this character and makes it just more fun and unique. So there's the inclusion of this ammo belt. I think that's what this is. The rest of the mock is a pretty, fairly standard Hero Factory frame. We've got the prefab legs, we've got the arms. They're all prefab and normal. The torso is actually a really cool custom torso, but for the most part, they look like any other Hero Factory build. Nothing wrong with that. I love how Hero Factory builds look, but you could argue it looks very similar to others. But I don't know, seeing this awesome ammo chain, it just makes them look a little bit more different and actually adds a lot of character. As soon as you see an ammo chain like that, you immediately think of a warrior, a soldier, someone like Rambo or something like that. So yeah, just one accessory and suddenly this mock has a lot more personality to them. I think that's really cool. So you ask yourself, what kind of accessory or detail can you add that will suddenly make a mock just a little bit more unique and special? Maybe something like jewelry or a hat or, I don't know, something else. Actually, I knew an actor who was in Resident Evil. and they were one of like the soldiers, and they were talking to the director. They're like, oh, can I put like a ring on a necklace and have that for my character so that they like, I don't know, there's something a bit more unique about them and that they stand out a little bit, and the audience can be like, oh, I wonder what that ring means. Is that from their like dead wife? Or like, oh, what's that got to do, you know? So yeah, I think the director ended up saying no, but still that premise of it being like suddenly they stand out a little bit more, and you look at it and you go, what is that? What does that mean? Instead of them just looking like a generic, you know, everyone else, you know. Accessories and other details that you can add on top of pre-existing prefab stuff is always a great way to advance a character build. I love the headgear. This appears to be the Evo 2.0 headgear, but just flipped around, and that's always a super smart thing to do. You can do that with masks, you can do that with this headgear here, you can do that with a few different pieces, and it opens up so many possibilities, because instead of having, you know, just the plain old headgear that you always had, suddenly you've doubled the amount that you can use, and some of them look super cool like they do here. So great idea to do that, and seems quite fitting for the character too. I also enjoy the Hero Factory logo on this big old blaster that he's got here. I feel like that's a really logical place to see that logo. It makes sense that there'd probably be some branding on the weapons that they have. Sometimes people just kind of place it on like the arm or the leg or something, and yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I feel like that's some pretty appropriate placement. So if you've got Hero Factory logos or, you know, badges, whatever you want to call those, lying around, put them on the weapons. I think you can get away with it there, and it's going to look nice. So yeah, all in all, a very nice Hero Factory hero build here with a lot of personality and a cool color scheme. Thanks for watching though, guys. That has been 9 fan-submitted mocks. Again, if you want to submit your own to future episodes of the show, you can submit them from the submission email that's on your screen right now, or you can go into the description below. The email's right there. You can copy and paste that. Go to your email, whether it's Gmail, Hotmail, any other kind of mail, and then send it my way, and I'll add it to the list and hopefully feature it when I can. You know, these fan-submitted episodes are just purely dedicated to fan submissions, but I do my best to put fan submissions into every episode. So, you know, whatever you submit, it could very well be featured at any time. Otherwise, in the description below is links to my own social media, as well as links to the creators that you saw today. You can check out their mocks in further detail if you take a look in the description below. I recommend you do. These guys have all built some awesome stuff. Thanks for watching, guys. Happy building. Bye for now.